Students, hi, welcome to the GDC English channel. Students, hi, welcome to the GDC English channel. Students, can you confirm if my audio is clear? Students, can you confirm if my audio is clear? Yeah. Give and out example. Yes, students, good evening. Can you confirm if my audio and the video is clear? Please try to confirm. Yes, students, good evening. Can you confirm if my audio and the video is clear? Yummy, switch off the Bluetooth, please. Okay, students, welcome to the MARGDARSHAN series. So you might be all familiar with this that our GDC team took a new initiative to start this particular series to help you achieve your goals, whatever it may be, the GPAT, the NIPER, the Pharm exit exam, or the pharmacist exam. So we are here with the MARGDARSHAN series. So in this class or in this session, we will discuss the digestive system. So please try to confirm once again if the audio and the video is good, then we can start the class. Okay, let us start the session, guys. So you all know that the digestive system, it is a very complex, it is very complex in nature. Many organs, they try to come together and they work in a coordinated manner in order to complete the digestion process. So in order to digest the food we eat and provide us with all the necessary nutrients. So in this session, we will know what the digestion is, what the organs involved in the digestion of the food, and also how each organ present in the digestive system, what each organ does to digest the food, and how we get nutrients from the food. Okay, let us know that. So before going to the organs, let us know what digestion is first. So this digestion So the digestion is the process by which the food is broken down into smaller molecules so that it can be absorbed by the body. So you all know that the food we eat contains large particles, okay, large food particles and also large macromolecules. And the digestive system, it cannot absorb these macromolecules if they are present in their larger forms. Okay, if they are like large molecules, the digestive system is not capable of absorbing them. So that's why the primary role of the digestive system is first to break down those particles, those large food particles, into smaller particles, okay, and then to absorb them. So the digestion is the process, how our body turns the food we eat into nutrients. So the digestion process will convert the food we eat into nutrients, and these nutrients, they are utilized for different processes in our body, like they are used for cell growth, cell repair, cell division, DNA synthesis. So whatever the function that occurs in our body, the nutrients are required, and the digestion will help us with all the nutrients. And the digestion, it is of two types. Okay, the digestion involves two steps. One is the mechanical digestion and the other one is the chemical digestion. So now let us know what the mechanical digestion is. So in this, from the name, you can say that the teeth present in our mouth, it will cut the large food molecules into small particles. So this process of converting the large food particles into smaller ones is known as mastication. Okay, remember this term, mastication. So whenever we eat food, The saliva which is produced by the salivary glands in the mouth, the saliva gets mixed with the food, and the teeth, they will break down the food, and a small, small ball like mixture of the food is formed. So here in this video you can see how a small ball like mixture of the food is formed. Okay, this ball like mixture is called as bolus. Okay, we call it as bolus. And after the formation of the bolus, it is pushed down into the throat by the tongue. So this is about the mechanical digestion. Now the other type of digestion, that is the chemical digestion. In this, in mechanical digestion, large particles are converted to smaller particles, whereas in chemical digestion, the larger molecules are split into smaller molecules. Okay, in mechanical digestion, larger particles are broken down into smaller ones, whereas in the chemical digestion, the macromolecules are broken down into smaller macromolecules. So you know that the food we eat contains many macromolecules like the proteins, fats, lipids, the sugars, carbohydrates. So these all are present in their complex forms, and they are broken down into simpler units by the digestive system. So for example, the sucrose, you all know that sucrose is a very complex carbohydrate molecule, and by an enzyme called invertase, it converts or breaks down this sucrose into simpler units, that is the glucose and the fructose. Likewise, it also break down the proteins. So you all know that the proteins are larger molecules. They are the polymers of amino acids. Okay, a large number of amino acids combined by peptide bonds forms of proteins. So the enzymes present in the digestive system, they will break down these proteins into tripeptides, dipeptides, and again they will break these dipeptides into amino acids. So these amino acids are the simplest form of proteins which can be easily absorbed into the blood circulation. Now coming to the functions of the digestive system. So the digestive system performs many functions in order to complete the digestion process. So let us know what those functions are. Mechanical processing. As I told you, they will break down the food particles. That is the mechanical processing. Then ingestion. Ingestion of the food in the form of bolus. That is a small ball-like mixture of the food. Then the transport. So the food is transported from the mouth to the esophagus. Then to the from the mouth to the pharynx, then to the esophagus, then to the stomach. So like that, from one part of the system to the other part, it is transported, and finally into the blood circulation. And secretion, various enzymes and different fluids are secreted into the digestive system. And food is, the food is digested, and from the digested food, the nutrients are derived. Absorption. So whatever the nutrients we get from the digested food, they are absorbed into the blood circulation. And after the absorption of the nutrients, the remaining food or the remaining material present in the digestive tract, which is said to be not useful to the body, it is excreted out of the body in the form of urea. And that is about the functions of the digestive system. Now let us know about the pH levels at different sites or parts of the digestive tract. You know that the pH is nothing but it is a level of acidity or basicity. It is a measure of acidity or basicity. And let us know the different pH. So the mouth has a pH of around 6.5 to 7.5. So you can say that this is slightly acidic to neutral pH. And the upper stomach has a pH of 4.0 to 6.5. So before going to the further, let us know why the mouth has a pH of 6.5 to 7.5. So the mouth, whenever we eat different kinds of foods, where it may be either acidic foods, basic foods. We eat different kinds of foods. So when we eat, for example, when we eat acidic foods like the cherries or citrus fruits like the lemons, oranges, our pH in the mouth gets, it gets turned into acidic. And when the mouth's pH turns into acidic, the acidic pH, it will try to degrade the outer layer of the enamel of the teeth. Okay, when this outer layer of the enamel gets degraded, it may cause teeth decay or tooth problems. So that's why the saliva, it will always try to maintain the pH at a neutral level. And coming to the upper stomach, it has a pH of around 4.0 to 6.5. Now you can say that this is a pH, this is an acidic pH. So as the HCl is secreted in the stomach, it has the acidic pH. But here you might observe some difference. The upper stomach has a slightly less acidic pH than the lower stomach. Now what is the reason for that? So here observe, when the food enters the stomach, it enters here, it enters through the esophagus, and it falls directly into the lower part of the stomach. And also the HCl secreted in the stomach gets accumulated in the lower part of the stomach. So that's why, and the upper part, it remains empty. And also the amount of HCl is more in the lower part. It accumulates in the lower part of the stomach. So that's why the lower part has a slightly more acidic pH than the upper part of the stomach. Now coming to the small intestine has three parts: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. So the duodenum has a pH of around 6, and the jejunum has around a pH of 7, and the ileum has a pH of around 7.4. So if you observe here, the pH 6, when the food enters the duodenum, the pH is around 6, which is acidic pH. So why? So the food present in the stomach gets mixed with the acid, and when it enters the initial part of the small intestine, that is the duodenum, the acid will be still present there. And when it goes further into the jejunum, it will be mixed with the alkaline fluids that are produced by the cells present in the small intestinal wall. So that's why the acidic food gets somewhat neutralized by the basic fluid. That's why the pH will turn to 7 to or a 9. You can say that as a basic pH. Now again, when coming to the ileum, it gets to a neutral pH, that is 7.4. Why? So all the basic fluid which was produced earlier, as the food comes to the ileum, the basic fluid gets absorbed, and also the pH will turn to neutral pH. And the large intestine pH is 4.0 to 7.0, so which is a slightly acidic to neutral pH. You know that the large intestine doesn't secrete any digestive enzymes or any digestive juices. So that's why the pH will, as the bicarbonate fluid or the basic fluid, or you can say the alkaline fluid, which is secreted in the small intestine, gets depleted as the food goes into the large intestine. The pH also turns neutral or acidic. So that is about the pH of the digestive tract. Now, let us know different organs present in the digestive system. So, the digestive system is divided into two: the gastrointestinal tract and the accessory digestive organs. So, the gastrointestinal tract contains the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and rectum. And it also has accessory digestive organs. So these organs, they will try to help the digestive system. Okay, they will support the digestion process which is taking place in the digestive tract. So what are those accessory digestive organs? This is the teeth, tongue, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas. So here you can see this is the whole picture of the digestive system. It starts from the mouth and ends at the anus. Okay, anus is the external opening to the body. Okay, this is the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach. So this is the small intestine, the large intestine, the rectum, and finally the anus. So that is about the different organs of the digestive system. Now, before discussing each organ in detail, let us know what the digestive system or the digestive tract is made of. Okay, the digestive tract is basically made of different, 4 different layers. So let us know what those layers are. The outermost layer is the serosa, and the next layer is the muscularis, submucosa, and the mucosa. So as we go from outside to inside, so serosa is the outermost layer, or you can say the superficial layer. Then comes the muscularis, submucosa, and the mucosa. So this mucosal layer is the innermost layer which is exposed to the lumen of the digestive tract. Now, if you talk about the serosa, it is the outermost or the superficial layer of the digestive canal. And next is the muscularis layer. So, from the name, you can say that it is a muscular layer. It contains the muscles. So, it consists of smooth muscles arranged in an inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. So, the inner layer is the circular one, and the outer is the longitudinal one. You have to remember this. And there is an exception. The whole digestive canal is contains the circular and the longitudinal layer in the muscularis. But the stomach, only the stomach contains an extra layer. So along with the inner circular layer and the outer longitudinal layer, the stomach also contains an extra layer, that is the oblique muscle layer. This is an important thing to remember. And the muscularis is responsible for the peristalsis. Peristalsis means it is the movement of the digestive canal. So the food, how the food travels from the mouth to the from the mouth to the esophagus and to the stomach, it is by a process called peristalsis. Okay, the contraction and relaxation of the muscularis layer of the digestive canal will helps the food to travel from one part to the other part of the digestive canal. So this is about the muscularis. Now coming to the submucosa, it is a loose areolar connective tissue which contains the nerves, blood vessels, and the lymph vessels. So this layer contains all the blood vessels, the nerves, and the lymph vessels. And coming to the last layer, the innermost layer, that is the mucosal layer. Okay, this layer contains all the cells. So all the cells which secretes the hormones or the digestive juices into the digestive canal. Okay, the serosa is the outermost layer. Muscularis layer contains the muscles which will help in the transportation of the food from one part of the digestive canal to the other, and the submucosa provides the digestive canal with all the blood vessels, lymph vessels, the nerves. Okay, the blood circulation or the blood supply will be in the submucosal layer, and the mucosal layer contains different cells which will secrete different enzymes and juices into the digestive canal. So here this is the serosa, outermost layer. The muscularis external, the inner circular and outer longitudinal. Then the submucosa. So here you can observe the blood vessels and the lymph vessels, and the innermost layer, that is the mucosa. It contains different cells, and also it contains these finger-like projections called villi. So we will talk in detail about this in the coming slides. So that is about the layers that form the digestive canal. Now the enteric system, the nervous system, whatever the functions we do, whatever we sense, we see, the information all will be perceived by the nervous system. So the nervous system will command the body to do all the functions. So the nervous system which helps the digestive system to accomplish its functions is known as the enteric nervous system. So let us know what this enteric nervous system does. Okay, I told you earlier that the submucosal layer contains all the nerves. So the nerves present in the submucosal layer of the digestive system are of two types. One is the 𝘂𝙑 plexus, okay, and the other one is the submucosal plexus. So let us know about the 𝘂𝙑 plexus first. So these 𝘂𝙑 plexus are also known as plexus of 𝘂𝙂𝙎. Okay, it is a network of neurons present between the circular and the longitudinal layers of the muscularis. So these 𝘂𝙑 plexus, these are the nerves which will control the muscularis layer of the digestive canal. Okay, these nerves they will command or provide instructions to the digestive canal to contract, to perform the peristalsis movement. So here you can see this is the peristalsis of the esophagus, stomach. This is how the peristalsis will happen. It is the alternate contraction and relaxation of the muscularis layer. So these 𝘂𝙑 plexus will provide will help the digestive canal to transport the food from one part to the other part. So here it controls the movement of the smooth muscles of the alimentary tract. So the matrix plexus function is to control the movement of the digestive canal. Now the other type of nerves present in the enteric system are the submucosal nerves. So from the name itself, you can tell that these are present in the submucosal layer. The matrix plexus are present in the muscularis layer, and the submucosal plexus are present in the submucosal layer. And these are also known as the Meissner's plexus. And these are situated in the submucosal layer between the circular layer of the muscularis and the innermost mucosal layer. And these are concerned with the secretions, okay, that are released into the digestive canal, and also they are concerned with the blood flow. So whatever the secretions that are released into the digestive canal, they are controlled by the submucosal plexus. Okay, that is about the two types of the nerves. So you know that the autonomic nervous system in our body is divided into two types: the sympathetic one and the parasympathetic one. So this parasympathetic one, if it is stimulated, then there will be an increase in the muscular activity of the digestive system or the digestive canal, and also there will be an increase in the secretions. Okay, whenever for example, if we see or if we smell any tasty food, our sensory neurons, they will detect those senses, those the sight and the taste, or you can also say the smell, and it will send the sensory information to the brain. The brain will process that information and sends the feedback information to the digestive system, and the digestive system in response will secrete different digestive juices, digestive enzymes, which will help in the digestion of the food. So the parasympathetic stimulation will increase the activity of the digestive system, whether it may be the peristalsis or the secretions, whereas the sympathetic stimulation will decrease the activities of the digestive system. So when there is no food, or for example, if you say a person is under stress, under some emotional stress, this parasympathetic system will get activated, and the secretion and also the activities of the digestive system will reduce. So these two are quite opposite to each other. Parasympathetic will stimulate, if is stimulated, will increase the functions. The sympathetic system, if stimulated, will decrease the functions. So that is about the enteric nervous system. So now let us start the different parts of the digestive system. You all know the starting part is the mouth. So let us start with the mouth. So the mouth, the space present in the mouth is known as the oral cavity or the buccal cavity. And what does the mouth contains? The mouth contains the teeth, tongue, and the salivary glands. So you can see these are the different parts present in the mouth. And the soft and hard palate, it forms the roof of the buccal cavity. So here you can see this is the hard palate, and the posterior portion is the soft palate. So these two will form the roof of the mouth, and the tongue forms the floor of the mouth, and the cheeks form the lateral walls of the buccal cavity. So the palatine, soft and hard palatine forms the roof, cheeks forms the lateral walls, and the tongue forms the floor of the buccal cavity. Now these cheeks are made up of certain muscles known as buccinator muscles, and the lips are made up of orbis, orbicularis oris muscles. Okay, inner surface of each lip is attached to its corresponding gums by a fold of mucous membrane called labial frenulum. So each lip is attached to its corresponding gums. So these are the gums which will which will hold the tooth or the teeth. So each lip is connected to its corresponding gums by a fold of mucous membrane called labial frenulum. And the tonsils are present on either sides of the cavity. So here, so these are the tonsils. So these are nothing. These are lymphoid organs. They are lymphoid organs, which will try to capture bacteria. So if any bacteria enters in our body along with the food we consume, these tonsils, they will try to capture and kill those bacteria. And the cheeks and lips help to keep the food in the oral cavity during mastication. So as the cheeks, they will form the lateral walls of the mouth cavity. They will help to keep the food in the mouth. So that is about the mouth. Now coming to the tongue, it is a voluntary skeletal muscle. Okay, it is a skeletal muscle and its movement is under our control. So we can control the movements of this tongue. And it is attached to the hyoid bone by a fold of mucous membrane called lingual frenulum. So hyoid bone, this is the hyoid bone. Here it will be present, hyoid bone here. And the tongue will be attached to that hyoid bone by a fold of mucous membrane called lingual frenulum. So I told you earlier, the lips will be attached by labial frenulum, whereas the tongue will be attached by the lingual frenulum. So note the difference here. And the tongue, the tongue is not a smooth. The surface of the tongue is not smooth. It is rough. And why this rough characteristic of the tongue? It is because of the presence of small structures called lingual papillae on the surface of the tongue. So these structures will give the tongue its roughness. So what are these lingual papillae? Let us know about them. So these papillae, they are of four types: the filiform, fungiform, circumvallate, and foliate. So these are the four types of lingual papillae present on the surface of our tongue. What are the functions? Let us know. So the fungiform, coming to the first one, the fungiform, these are located mostly on the sides and tip of the tongue. So these are present on the sides and also on the tip. And what are the functions? They can detect the flavor of the food, the temperature, and also they can also sense the touch. So the function of this papillae is to detect the flavors, the taste of the food we eat, and also the temperature and also the touch. So they have a sense of touch, temperature, and taste. So these fungiform, they are present on the sides of the tongue and the tip of the tongue. Their function is to detect the flavor, temperature, and also the touch. And the filiform, these are the numerous number of lingual papillae. So of all the types of the papillae, the filiform are present in more number, and they are found on the anterior surface of the tongue. So here, this is the anterior surface. This is the anterior, and this is the posterior surface. And these filiform, they are present in the anterior surface here. And now coming to the next type of the papillae. Before going to the next type, a key thing to remember is that these filiform papillae, they are non-gustatory, which means that they do not have the sense of, they do not have the ability to detect or differentiate between flavors or taste. So they are non-gustatory, but they have a sensation for touch. So whenever we eat food, they have a sense that the food is present in the mouth. And the other type is circumvallate. So these are the small bumps present on the back of the tongue, and they appear larger than any other types of papillae. So the filiform papillae are present more in number, whereas the circumvallate papillae are the larger papillae. Okay, their size is large when compared to the other papillae, and their function is that they are sensitive to bitter taste. Okay, they can detect the bitter taste of the food, and also they are involved in gag reflex. So what is this gag reflex? So if you know that uh, whenever you put your finger in your mouth, like whenever you feel like you feel like nauseous, you try to vomit. So you try to put your finger in the mouth, and you try to touch the posterior portion of your tongue. So whenever your finger touches the posterior portion, you will try to vomit. So why? It is because of the gag reflex. So that is known as the gag reflex. So whenever any foreign object, when it tries to enter our body along with our food, so when we eat anything by mistake, so these circumvallate receptors present on the posterior side of the tongue, they will try to prevent the entry of that foreign object. So here, circumvallate papillae. They are present on the back of the tongue or the posterior side of the tongue. Now coming to the last type, the foliate, they are located on the sides of the back of the tongue. So on the posterior side, they are located on the sides of the tongue. So their function is to perceive taste. So that is about the different papillae of the tongue. Now coming to the salivary glands. So the major role, what is major function of the salivary glands is to produce the saliva. You all know that the saliva is the fluid which is secreted in the mouth. So it will help the food to be turned into a bolus. And also the saliva, what is the composition of the saliva? 99% of the saliva contains water, but the remaining 1% contains different enzymes, ions, salts. Okay, all these are present in that remaining 1%, and it also contains mucus. The saliva also contains small amounts of mucus. And let us know the salivary glands or the exocrine glands. Exocrine glands means they have ducts, and they are located under and behind the jaw. Let us know the functions before going to discuss the different types of salivary glands. So let us know the functions. So the saliva lubricates the mouth and the throat. So they will help in the lubrication of the mouth and the throat, so that the food we eat can be easily pushed into the esophagus. They cleanse the mouth and the teeth. So whenever we eat food, the food particles may stuck in the mouth or in the teeth. So this saliva, they will try to cleanse those food particles, and also help in swallowing by what? By preparing the, by helping in forming the bolus. Protects the teeth from bacteria. So the bacteria contain certain enzymes, some powerful enzymes, so which will help in killing those bacteria. And also chemical digestion. So the saliva contains different enzymes like the salivary amylase, maltase, lipase. So the salivary amylase, it will help in the digestion of carbohydrates. The lipase will help in the digestion of lipids. Okay, partly these carbohydrates and lipids are digested in the mouth itself because of the enzymes present in the saliva. And the dissolved, it also dissolves the food and allows the tongue to taste the food. So if the food is dry, the papillae present on our tongue, they won't be able to perceive the taste properly. So when the saliva mixes or dissolves the food, the papillae will be able to detect the taste properly. And there are three major, types of salivary glands. So the first one is the parotid salivary gland. So these parotid glands are the largest of the salivary glands. So they are the largest ones when compared to the other two types. And they are located in front of the ears. So they are located here, the parotid glands. And the saliva produced in these glands is secreted into the mouth from a duct present on the upper cheek near your upper second molar. So the saliva is produced or produced in this parotid gland, and from that the saliva enters into the ducts, that is the Stenson's duct, and this duct opens here on the upper cheek. Okay, that is beside the second molar teeth. That means here in the back. So that duct will open on the upper cheek. Now coming to the next gland, that is the submandibular gland. So from the name you can say that it is present under the sub means under, mandible means here. So it is present under. So the submandibular gland is located just below the lower jaw on both sides. It is in the posterior portion of the submandibular triangle. So this is the submandibular triangle here. This is the jaw, and it is present here on the posterior side. Okay, the submandibular duct opens into the oral cavity at the sublingual caruncula. So this sublingual caruncula is nothing but it is a bulb-like structure which is present on the under the tongue. I have told you about the lingual frenulum, the thing which attaches the tongue to the higher jaw. So on the lingual frenulum, a bulb-like structure is present, or you can say on the lingual frenulum. So that is known as the sublingual caruncula. And this Wharton's duct will open beside the sublingual caruncula. Now coming to the sublingual gland. The sublingual gland is the smallest. The parotid is the largest one, and the sublingual is the smallest one. And it is located under the tongue. So the duct is the Bartholin's duct. The duct of Ravi has many small ducts that empty near the junction of the tongue and the mouth. So the sublingual gland has two types of ducts, the ducts of Ravinus and the Bartholin's duct. So these ducts of Ravinus, they are small ducts. So here in the picture you can see they are small ducts. Okay, which will unite and open into the and forms the Bartholin's duct. Okay, these small ducts of Ravinus will unite and form the Bartholin's duct. And this Bartholin's duct, where does it open? It opens near the submandibular duct, that is under the tongue. So the parotid gland, the duct of the parotid gland is Stenson's duct. The duct of the submandibular gland is Wharton's duct. This duct opens at the upper cheek, and the submandibular duct opens under the tongue, whereas the sublingual duct, that is the Bartholin's duct, it will also open under the tongue. So that is about the salivary glands. Now coming to the disorders of the salivary glands. Okay, there are different disorders, that is the hypersalivation, hyposalivation, xerostomia, mumps, and Sjogren's syndrome. So what is this hypersalivation? So from the name itself you can say hyper means more. Hyper, you can also call this as sialuria or thialism. Okay, it is the condition in which the saliva is secreted in more amounts. Okay, the saliva will be secreted, they are secreted in more amounts, and it can result in drooling. So as the saliva is secreted in larger quantities, whenever we sleep, some people will drool. Why? It is because of the overflow of the saliva from the mouth. Yani, is the voice okay? Is there any problem with the voice or the audio? Okay. Now coming to the other disorder, the hyposalivation. So this is exactly opposite to the hypersalivation. So the hyposalivation is a condition in which the saliva is produced in lesser amounts, okay, lesser quantities. That is the hypersalivation and hyposalivation. Now coming to the xerostomia. Xerostomia is a condition which is worse to the hyposalivation. Okay, in hyposalivation, the salivary secretion is less, but in xerostomia, the salivary secretion is very much less. Okay, it is very much less that the mouth and the tongue they will become dry. Okay, due to the presence of very less amounts of saliva, the tongue and the mouth will get dry. So here you can see this condition here. So this is the xerostomia. And then the mumps. Mumps, it is the swelling of the parotid salivary glands. It is due to the viral infection. So it is a viral infection which is caused by the orthorubella virus. So this virus will cause the swelling of the parotid glands, and this condition is called as mumps. Now the other one is the Sjogren's syndrome. It is an immune system disorder which will cause the body's immune system to attack its own cells that produce the saliva. So the immunity system of our body, it will stimulate, it will attack its own cells. Okay, you can say this is it as an autoimmune disorder, and as it will attack the lacrimal glands and the salivary glands, the the lacrimal fluid secretion and also the saliva secretion will be reduced, and as a result the mouth and the eyes will become dry. So that is about the disorders of the salivary glands. Now coming to the teeth. So the teeth are hard bony structures which are meant for tearing, cutting, chewing, crushing, and holding food. They are located in the sockets of mandibles and maxillae covered by gums. So what the teeth? What is the use of the teeth? They are present just to cut, chew, and crush the food into smaller particles. Now these teeth, each single teeth is present in a socket formed by the gums in the mandibles and the maxillae. So the upper one is the maxillae and the lower one is the mandibles. So the pinkish like tissue, they are the gums. They form small pocket-like structures which are called as sockets. In those sockets, each tooth will be present. So that is about the teeth. And the tooth has three major external regions. One is the crown, the neck, and the root. So the crown is produced from the gums and it is visible above the level of the gum. So here these are the gums and this crown is visible. Okay, it is a part which is visible to the outside. And next part is the neck, which is a narrow region, and the other the part which is present deep deeper side of the gum. Okay, it is the root. Okay, the crown is the part which protrudes out. The narrowed one is the neck, and the one which is embedded in the gum or the mandibular bone or the maxillary bone is known as the root part. This is about the external region. Now coming to the internal regions, it has pulp cavity. So here you can see this cavity here which is present inside the teeth. It is known as the pulp cavity, and it contains all the nerves, all the blood vessels and the lymph vessels. So these are all present in the pulp cavity. And the dentin, it is also an internal structure. It is a hard tissue that is the main supporting structure of the teeth, and it is the second hardest tissue after enamel. So the outermost layer of the teeth, that is the white part, it is the enamel, and it is the strongest, or you can say the hardest substance present in our body. And next to that, another layer is known as dentin. So it is the supporting structure of the teeth. Enamel, it covers the dentin and it is harder than bone because it contains higher concentrations of calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate. So these are the calcium minerals which are present in the enamel. These minerals will, these are the minerals which are responsible for the hardness of the enamel. Now, this enamel protects the tooth from all the wear and tear which will happen during the chewing of the food. And these sockets are lined by periodontal membrane that anchors the teeth to the socket walls. So these sockets, they are lined by periodontal membrane, which will try to fix the teeth tightly to those sockets. So that is the periodontal membrane. And you are familiar that adults have around 32 teeth. And what are the different? There are different teeth. Okay, the premolars, molars, canines, and incisors. And in an adult, around 8 incisors are present, 4 canines, 8 premolars, and 12 molars are present. So here you can see these are the incisors, the canines, the premolars, and the molars. So the front ones which will help us to cut, they are the incisors, and the canines, they will help us to tear the food. Those are the canines. The premolar and the molar teeth will help us in chewing the food. So that is about the different teeth present in our mouth. Now the disorder of the teeth, tooth decay, damage to the tooth surface which can lead to cavities. So the tooth surface, what it is lined by? It is lined by the enamel. So whenever this enamel layer gets depleted or degraded, the inside of the tooth will be exposed to all the food that we eat, and as a result, the tooth will, it will decay. It will cause an infection to the tooth. And abscess is a formation of a pocket of pus caused by tooth infection. So if we prolong the tooth infection, if the tooth infection is prolonged, if we don't care to treat that infection, a pocket of pus will be formed in the tooth. So that condition is known as abscess. Impacted tooth, a tooth which did not erupt when it should have. So some people, they do not have teeth at certain places. So they have teeth in the gums, but the tooth is present as dormant in the gums itself. They will not erupt. So that condition is known as impacted tooth. Misaligned means, so the teeth are not present in proper manner. They are not arranged properly in the mouth. So that is known as malocclusion or misaligned teeth. Now the other one are tooth injuries. So whenever a person falls or whenever he undergoes an accident, so his teeth might break. So that is known as chipped teeth. Okay, here you can see. So this is the broken teeth are known as chipped teeth. So that is about the teeth disorders. Now coming to the pharynx, the mouth. When we eat food, the food enters the mouth and then into the pharynx. So the pharynx is about 12 to 14 centimeters long, and it is a funnel-shaped tube which extends from the internal nares and opens into the esophagus posteriorly and throat anteriorly. So when the food enters the mouth, then it enters the pharynx. So this pharynx enters. So here you can see these two nostrils. So these are known as the external nares, and the other end of the nasopharynx. So here the external nares are present, and here the internal nares are present, and the nasopharynx starts here. Okay, it starts from the external nares, and it will elongate anteriorly into the throat, that is into the larynx, and enter into the esophagus. And it is composed of skeletal muscles, and it is lined with mucous membrane internally. The pharynx is made up of skeletal muscle, and the muscular contraction of the pharynx propels the food into the esophagus. So from the mouth it enters into the pharynx propels, and the food enters into the esophagus. So here you can see how the food from the mouth it is entering into the esophagus. So there is a particular organ known as epiglottis. So here you can see this is the epiglottis. So what this epiglottis does means whenever the food try to enter from the mouth into the pharynx, this epiglottis will cover this is the trachea. It will try to cover the trachea. The epiglottis try to cover the trachea so that the food will enter into the esophagus without entering into the trachea. So that is the function of the epiglottis. Now then coming to the esophagus. From the pharynx, the food enters into the esophagus. So it is about 25 centimeters long. It is a long, narrow, muscular tube which will connect the pharynx to the stomach, and it lies posterior to the trachea. Okay, it is present behind the trachea. That is the windpipe. The upper and lower ends of the esophagus are closed by sphincters. So upper esophageal sphincter. So if you say this is the esophagus, here one sphincter will be present. So sphincter is nothing but it is like a valve. It will control the entry of the food from the pharynx into the esophagus. So the upper esophageal sphincter is also known as circopharyngeal sphincter, and it prevents the passage of air into the esophagus during inspiration. So when we inhale air, the esophagus is meant just for the food. It is not for the air. So when we inspire air, the upper esophageal sphincter will prevent the entry of air into the esophagus. And the lower esophageal sphincter, which is also known as cardiac sphincter, it prevents the reflux of gastric content in the stomach. So the stomach contains the food along with the HCl. The lower esophageal sphincter, it will prevent the entry of or the backflow of food from the stomach into the esophagus. So here you can see how the contents of the stomach are trying to enter into the esophagus. So this lower esophageal sphincter will prevent the entry of the contents of the stomach into the esophagus. So that is about the upper esophageal sphincter. It will prevent the entry into the esophagus, and the lower esophageal sphincter, which will prevent the backflow of the contents of the stomach into the esophagus. Whenever there are certain situations when the contents of the stomach may enter into the esophagus. So when the lower esophageal sphincter, when it is not closed properly, they may enter into the esophagus, and it will cause some burning sensation in the esophagus. So which we call it as heartburn or acid reflux. If this acid reflux or the it occurs again and again, we call it as gastroesophageal reflux disease. And the purpose of the esophagus is to convey the food from the pharynx to the esophagus. So that is about esophagus. Now coming to the stomach, where the actual digestion takes place. Now the stomach is 25 centimeters long and it is a J-shaped, distensible enlargement of the alimentary tract which is present inferior to the diaphragm. Okay, the stomach, it is a J-shaped organ. Here you can see this is a J-shaped organ and it has an ability to extend, enlarge or distend itself. So whenever the food enters the stomach, this is the wall of the stomach, as it is a muscular organ, it will try to enlarge, accommodating the food. Now the stomach connects the esophagus to the duodenum, that is the first part of the small intestine. The stomach has three main regions: the fundus, the body, and the pylorus. So here, if you want clearly about the parts of the stomach, here this part, the part which is present at the initial site of the stomach is known as the cardia, and this portion here is known as fundus. This curved portion, it is known as fundus. This initial portion is known as cardia, and this portion is known as the body, and here this portion is known as the antrum, and this portion is known as the pylorus. So, five different portions: the fundus, the body, the antrum, and the pylorus. And when the stomach is empty, so whenever the food enters the stomach will enlarge, and the inner surface of the stomach contains certain folds of the mucus layer, which we call it as rugae. So here you can see these folds, these mucus folds. These are known as rugae. So when food enters the stomach, these folds will, they will become flat. So as the wall of the stomach enlarges, these rugae will become flat. Okay, these rugae are present only in the stomach. So that's why the stomach has the ability to stretch itself. And the opening of the stomach is guarded by a sphincter called pyloric sphincter. So the opening of the esophagus into the stomach is guarded by a sphincter called, lower esophageal sphincter. That is the cardiac sphincter. Okay, as it opens into the cardiac region of the stomach, the name cardiac sphincter. So the esophagus entering into the stomach is guarded by the cardiac sphincter, and the stomach entry of the food from the stomach into the intestine, that is the small intestine, is guarded by a sphincter called pylorus sphincter. And when does this sphincter opens? It opens only when the food is partially digested. So if you remember, I have told you earlier that the stomach contains an extra muscle layer, that is the oblique muscle layer. So what is the use of this oblique muscle layer? Why it is present only in the stomach? Okay, the stomach performs certain movements which are known as churning movements. So here you can see how the stomach is churning the food. Okay, when the food enters the stomach, it will churn the food, and all those boluses, that is the ball-like mixtures of the food, they will be turned into twisted food. It will be in the form of a fluid. Okay, these churning movements will turn those boluses into chyme. Okay, that fluid containing partially digested food is known as chyme. Okay, that is about that is what the significance of the muscularis layer. It is for the churning movements of the stomach. Now the stomach lining, the innermost lining of the stomach is the mucosal layer. And this mucosal layer contains different types of cells. And how the HCl and different enzymes are released into the stomach, it is because of these different cells present in the mucosal layer of the stomach lining. And what are those cells? The mucus cells, chief cells, and parietal cells. So these are all exocrine cells. Okay, these are exocrine glands. They will release certain fluids and enzymes. So let us know the different cells and what they release. So the chief cells will release three types of enzymes. the pepsinogen, the renin, and the lipase. Whereas the parietal cells release the hydrochloric acid and the intrinsic factor. Now the mucous cells release the mucus. Mucus cells release mucus, G cells release gastrin, B cells release somatostatin, and the enterochromatin cells release histamine. So here these three types of cells, the mucus cells, the chief cells, and the parietal cells, they are the exocrine cells. That means they will release either the HCl or the enzymes. Whereas the endocrine cells, they release different hormones. The gastrin hormone, somatostatin is also a hormone, and the histamine is also a hormone. So let us know in detail about these cells and their secretions. So the mucus cells, they produce a substance called mucus. Okay, these mucus is produced by mucous neck cells and surface mucous cells. So here you can see. So here, this is the, you know, these are the cells present in the lining of the stomach, and here these are the mucous neck cells. These are the mucous neck cells, and they will produce the mucus. Oh, here you can see these are the mucous neck cells. They will produce the mucus. And what is the function of this mucus? You know that HCl, which is a highly acidic fluid, it is secreted in the stomach. And it will, this as this HCl is a very highly acidic in nature, it will try to damage the stomach's surface, or you can say the stomach lining. And now the mucus, which is produced by these mucus cells, they will form a protective layer around the inner lining of the stomach. So this mucus will prevent the, damage to the stomach lining. So that is the function of the mucus. Now coming to the hydrochloric acid, which is secreted by the, chief cells, the parietal cells. The parietal cells will secrete the hydrochloric acid. Now this hydrochloric acid destroys, what is the function? It destroys harmful bacteria which may enter our body along with the food, and it also helps in activating the pro-enzymes into active enzymes. So the chief cells, they secrete different enzymes like the pepsinogen. Now this pepsinogen is a inactive enzyme. The HCl will activate that inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin. So here the HCl activates the inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin, and this pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme. So all the proteins present in our food will be broken down into small chains of amino acids, which are known as peptides. So the pepsinogen will be activated to pepsin by the HCl, and the pepsin will help in the digestion of the proteins. Now next, coming to the intrinsic factor, okay, which is also secreted by the parietal cells of the stomach. It is a glycoprotein which is secreted by the parietal cells, and this intrinsic factor is required or needed for the body for the absorption of vitamin B12. So this vitamin B12 enzyme, it cannot be absorbed until unless there is this intrinsic factor present in the stomach. And this intrinsic factor, it will combine with the vitamin B12, it forms a complex, and this complex is absorbed in the small intestine. So this is the intrinsic factor. The vitamin B12, they will combine and they will form the intrinsic factor and vitamin B12 complex, and this complex will be absorbed into the small intestine. So the function of the intrinsic factor is just to help in the absorption of the vitamin B12. Now the next one is the gastric lipase, the lipase enzyme. So it is responsible for the digestion of fats. So as I told you, the proteins are the, they are the polymers of amino acids. Now the fats, they also contain, a glycerol here, contains a glycerol and three fatty acids. It is also a complex structure. It is known as a triglyceride. Now these triglycerides has to be broken down into simpler forms. What are those simpler forms? The diglycerides, the monoglycerides, the fatty acids finally. So the lipase enzyme, it will break down the triglycerides into diglycerides, producing a fatty acid, then into a monoglyceride, producing another fatty acid. So these fatty acids are the simpler or simple units of lipids, and these fatty acids can be easily absorbed into the blood circulation. Now coming to the renin, which is also a protein digesting enzyme. So it is an enzyme which is produced in the stomach that coagulates milk. That means the proteins which are present in the milk are digested by the enzyme renin. So it is secreted by the gastric glands in an inactive form, that is prorenin. So whenever you see a term pro, it means that the enzyme is in its inactive form. And this prorenin is activated to renin, that is active form by the HCl. And this renin will act on the protein. Casein is the milk protein. Okay, the protein present in the milk is known as casein. So the activated renin will act on the casein and forms the paracasein. The paracasein combines with the calcium and forms a complex, and this is in turn digested by a protein called pepsin into peptones and proteases. So the pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme which is present in the foods, whereas the renin is an enzyme which will digest the proteins present in the milk, particularly the casein. Now coming to the gastrin, so that is about the enzymes and the HCl. Now coming to the hormones secreted. So the gastrin is a hormone, peptide hormone secreted by the G cells. So these G cells present in the lining of the stomach and also the duodenum, they will secrete this gastrin hormone. What does this gastrin hormone does? It This hormone binds to the cholecystokinin B receptor on the parietal cells and will stimulate the release of HCl. So that the G cells are present in the gut wall, that is in the inner lining of the stomach, and these G cells will release gastrin into the bloodstream. So this gastrin is a hormone, and this hormone will again enter into the lining of the stomach and will activate the parietal cells. I told you earlier the HCl is released by the parietal cells. So this gastrin hormone binds to the cholecystokinin B receptor present on these parietal cells and will cause the release of HCl, that is the gastric acid by the parietal cells. So conclusively you can say that the gastrin hormone, when it is released, it will stimulate the parietal cells to produce HCl. Now coming to the other type of hormone, histamine. Histamine is released by enterochromaffin-like cells present in the gut wall, and this histamine causes the release of gastric acid by stimulating the H2 receptors. Okay, the histamine is released by the enterochromaffin cells present in the gut wall. Okay, here I have shown you the G cells release the gastrin hormone into the blood, and these gastrin hormone will stimulate these enterochromaffin cells. The enterochromaffin cells will release the histamine, and the histamine will bind to the H2 receptor present on the parietal cells and will release the HCl. So the gastrin hormone and also the histamine hormone both will try to release the HCl. Now then the B cells. B cells are also present in the mucosal layer of the stomach, and these cells release the somatostatin. So the gastrin hormone and the histamine hormone will stimulate the parietal cells to release the HCl. Whereas the somatostatin, its story is different. The somatostatin will prevent the release of HCl. Okay, it will inhibit the parietal cells to release the HCl. It will prevent the ECL, that is enterochromaffin cells, to release the gastrin hormone, and also also the release of histamine. So somatostatin will inhibit the release of HCl, whereas the other two hormones will stimulate the release of HCl. Now coming to the stomach diseases, the peptic ulcer and the gastritis. Now the peptic ulcer is an infection to the wall of the stomach, or you can say the duodenum. So it is an infection to the wall of the stomach, and it occurs commonly due to a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori. And certain people, they will when a person takes more NSAIDs, that is the non anti-inflammatory steroidal drugs. When these medicines are taken frequently, this will cause some infection. It will try to damage the lining of the stomach, and this condition is known as peptic ulcer. And whenever we eat food, a person having peptic ulcer eats certain foods which are high in spices, it will cause the food causes some irritation to the stomach, and it can worsen the situation. And it is also caused by bacteria. This bacteria, it can enter through the food, which is known as the Helicobacter pylori. It can also cause the peptic ulcer. These are nothing but the open sores, open wounds to the lining of the stomach. Now gastritis. So whenever you see a term ending with itis, you remember that it is an inflammatory condition. So here itis tells us that it is an inflammatory condition. So it is the inflammation of the lining of the stomach or the gut, and it is caused due to excessive smoking, excessive drinking of alcohol, or any chronic infection, or long-term use of any drugs or medicines. So these conditions will cause the gastritis. Now coming to the pancreas. So these pancreas is an accessory digestive organ. So it will help the digestion process. Now, the pancreas is up to 12 to 15 centimeters long, and it is a soft, elongated organ situated between the limbs of the duodenum. So, here, this is the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine, and between this duodenum, the pancreas are present. And the pancreas has three parts: the tail part, the body part, and the head part. And remember this thing that the pancreas is a heterocrine gland. So which means that it performs both exocrine functions and endocrine functions. So it can secrete both enzymes, that is the pancreatic juices, and also the hormones like glucagon and insulin. So that's why the pancreas is a heterocrine gland. Now, the 95% of pancreas contains the exocrine portion. So, the 95% of the cells present in the pancreas are concerned in secreting the enzymes or the pancreatic fluid, whereas the remaining 5% of the cells, they are concerned with releasing hormones like insulin and glucagon. So, majority or the major portion of the pancreas is concerned with the digestive function, and the exocrine portion of the pancreas contain small cluster of cells called acini, and the cells within the acini are known as acinocytes. So here let me show you. These structures are called as acini, and the cells present in these acini are known as acinocytes. So in these acinocytes, the different pancreatic enzymes and pancreatic juices are synthesized, and the synthesized pancreatic juices from the acinocytes, they will be released into these small ducts. So here, this is the duct. Okay, these small ducts unite to form a larger duct called pancreatic duct and accessory duct. So here, this is the pancreatic duct, and there is another duct called accessory pancreatic duct. So when all the pancreatic juices enters the pancreatic duct, the pressure in the pancreatic duct will increase. Okay, because of the large volumes of the pancreatic juices. So that's why there is an accessory duct, so that the pancreatic juice can also flow into this duct, and it can result in the decrease in the pressure in the pancreatic duct. So that is the reason why the accessory pancreatic duct is present. Now the pancreatic duct joins the common bile duct. Okay, that is a duct which carries the bile from the gallbladder, and forms a dilated common duct called hepatopancreatic duct. So the duct from the bile, the gallbladder and the pancreatic duct, they will combine and form a common duct which is known as the hepatopancreatic duct. So here you can see or you can say that is the common bile duct. This is the duct here. This is the common bile duct. This is the duct from the gallbladder, which is known as the bile duct, or you can say the cystic duct, and this is the pancreatic duct. They will combine and form the common bile duct. And the entry of these pancreatic juices and the bile into the small intestine is guarded by a valve known as ampulla of water or hepatopancreatic ampulla. Okay, all the bile which is stored in the gallbladder, the entry of the bile and also the entry of the pancreatic juices into the small intestine is guarded by a valve-like structure known as ampulla of water. So you remember this name. And the passage of this pancreatic juice into the duodenum is regulated by a sphincter called sphincter of Ardh. So as the esophageal sphincter or the pyloric sphincter, the cardiac sphincter, it is also a type of sphincter called sphincter of Ardh. So that is about the sphincter which controls the entry of the bile and the pancreatic juice into the duodenum. The the duct of the gallbladder is the cystic duct or the bile duct. The duct of the pancreas is known as the pancreatic duct, which will combine and form a common bile duct. And then the common bile duct opens into the ampulla of water. Okay, this is ampulla of water is opening. This opening into the duodenum, and this ampulla of water is guarded by a sphincter known as sphincter of Oddi. So that is about the pancreas. Now let us know what is the constitution of the pancreatic juice. So the pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice. Let us know what is present in the pancreatic juice. So the pancreatic juice is a clear, colorless fluid with a pH of 7.1 to 8.2. So from here, what you can say, the pancreatic juice is an alkaline fluid, and up to 1200 to 1500 ml of pancreatic juice is secreted daily by the pancreas. And the juice contains water, mineral salts, sodium bicarbonate, enzymes like amylase, lipase, and inactive enzymes like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, and procarboxypeptidase. So, as I told you that pancreatic juice is a highly alkaline fluid. And what gives the alkaline nature to the pancreatic juice? It is this sodium bicarbonate. Now, this sodium bicarbonate is a alkaline substance, and this will give the pancreatic juice its alkaline nature. So here you can see how the bile and the pancreatic juice entering into the duodenum from the pancreas and the gallbladder. And it also contains enzymes like amylase and lipase, and these are active enzymes. Okay, when they are released into the duodenum, they will perform their functions. They will start digesting the macromolecules. Whereas there are certain inactive enzymes which have to be activated, like the trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen. Okay, the trypsinogen is activated by an enzyme called enterokinase, which is secreted in the small intestine. Okay, this enterokinase is secreted in the small intestine. And when the pancreatic juices, which contain the trypsinogen, enters the small intestine, this enterokinase activates the trypsinogen into trypsin. Okay, enterokinase activates the trypsinogen into trypsin, and this trypsin will in turn activate the other two enzymes. Okay, the trypsin will enter in the activate the chymotrypsinogen into chymotrypsin, and procarboxypeptidase into carboxypeptidase. So that is about the composition of the pancreatic juice. Now coming to the pancreatic disorders, pancreatitis. You can say that it is the swelling or inflammation of the pancreas, as it has itis in its end. And it can be chronic or acute. It can be present from a long time, or it is present for a very short time. And how it is caused? It is caused due to heavy alcohol intake or gallstones. You know that the bile is stored in the gallbladder, and the bile enters the small intestine through the bile duct. So when there is any stones present in this duct, so these stones will obstruct the entry of the bile into the small intestine, and as a result the bile will accumulate in the gallbladder, and the gallbladder will swell. So as a bile will be synthesized, it will be stored in the gallbladder. But due to the formation of the gallstones in the duct, and the bile will not be able to enter into the small intestine. It will get accumulated into the gallbladder, and as the bile accumulates in the gallbladder will get swells. So that is known as the pancreatitis. And the you know steatoria, or you can say fatty stool. It is a condition where there is too much fat in the feces. It occurs due to the impaired digestion and malabsorption of fats. So the pancreatic juices contains the lipase enzyme, which is responsible for the digestion of fats. So when these pancreatic juice is not released into the small intestine properly, the fats will not be digested properly. When the fats are not digested properly, they will not be absorbed into the bloodstream. And when they are not absorbed into the bloodstream, where they will go, they will just remain in the food, and they will be excreted out in the form of waste. So that's why the stool will appear oily because of the presence of the undigested fats. So that is about the pancreatic disorders. Now coming to the liver, it is also an accessory digestive organ. It is the second largest organ in our body, which weighs about 1.4 kgs, and it is present in the upper right portion of the abdominal cavity. So upper right portion here, you can see this is the liver, and it is present beneath. beneath the diaphragm and on top of the stomach. It is divided into two lobes. Okay, the liver has two lobes, one larger lobe and one smaller lobe. And here you can see there is a slight division to the liver, which is caused by a ligament called falciparum ligament. Okay, the division in the liver is caused by the falciparum ligament, and the bile is synthesized in the hepatocytes, drains into the intrahepatic ducts present between the hepatocytes. So the liver, what is the liver made of? It contains many liver cells which are known as hepatocytes. So the bile is synthesized in these hepatocytes, and the bile from the hepatocytes enters into the hepatic intrahepatic ducts. That is the ducts present in the between the hepatocytes, and from there it will enter into the gallbladder. That means it will be stored in the gallbladder. And here is the pathway of the bile circulation from the intrahepatic duct present between the hepatocytes. They will enter the right hepatic duct and the left hepatic duct. Then they will enter into a common hepatic duct from the liver. So from the liver there is a duct coming which is known as the common hepatic duct. And from the common hepatic duct along with the duct of the gallbladder, it forms the common bile duct. The common bile duct along with the pancreatic duct enters into the duodenum. So this is the pathway of the bile transportation. Now, apart from the synthesis of bile, there are also some important functions that the liver performs. Okay, it is responsible for carbohydrate metabolism like glucogenolysis, gluconeogenesis. What is glycogenolysis? It is the breakdown of the glycogen into glucose. And gluconeogenesis, it is the synthesis of glucose from sources like the proteins, okay, like that. And the glycogenesis is the synthesis of glycogen from glucose. So when there is no need of any glucose to the body, the glucose will be converted into glycogen and will be stored in the liver and muscles. So glycogenolysis, whenever there is a need of energy for the body, this glycogen will be broken down and glucose will be released, which can be used as to generate ATP. And also it is responsible for lipid metabolism, break down the fatty acids to generate ATP, and also synthesizes lipoproteins to transport fatty acids. So the fatty acids, they cannot enter as such into the bloodstream as they are, they are lipophilic. So the lipoproteins which are synthesized in the liver, they will help in the transport of these fatty acids. And also they are involved in protein metabolism, detoxification. So whenever the toxic materials present in the body, they will be filtered or removed by the liver and will be excreted into the bile. Excretion of bilirubin. All when the red blood cells, when the red blood cells, the lifespan of the red blood cells become, it gets completed, they have to be destroyed. Okay, when the red blood cells are degraded, the bilirubin, it is produced. It is a bile pigment. It is produced as a byproduct. Okay, when the RBCs are degraded, the bilirubin is produced as a byproduct. And it also, the liver also synthesizes bile salts which are required for the metabolism of the fats, and it also stores glycogen and vitamins. Phagocytosis. These copper cells, which are known as which are a type of macrophages, or you can say immune cells, these are present in the liver, and they will try to phagocyte red blood cells or what of macrophages or immune cells present in the liver. And the liver is also responsible for the synthesis of vitamin D. Okay, now coming to the gallbladder. This gallbladder is a pear-shaped sac attached to the posterior surface of the liver. So this gallbladder is attached to the liver. And what is the function of this gallbladder? It is just to store the bile which is synthesized by the liver. And the bile contains, it is a physiological solution which is synthesized by the liver, and it contains about 95% of water. And the remaining 5% contains solid constituents. And what does it contain? It contains bile salts. What are the bile salts? Taurochenodeoxycholic acid, glycochenodeoxycholic acid, and bile acids like the taurocholic acid, glycocholic acid. Bilirubin, which is a bile pigment, as I told you earlier, it is a byproduct of broken down RBC. and also it contains cholesterol. So these bile juice contains all the bile salts, bile acids, uh, bile pigments, and cholesterol, which is synthesized by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. Functions of the bile is that it helps in digesting. Its main role is helping in digesting the fats and also in the absorption of fats. And also all some certain toxins, certain excess cholesterol, they will all be excreted in this bile itself. Okay, some are excreted through the urine, some are excreted in the bile, and the bile gets excreted through the anus. And it also acts as a laxative. How laxative is a substance which will cause the movement of the bowel, stimulating the release of waste from the body. So it exerts a stimulating action on the intestinal wall. So this bile will cause the contraction of the intestinal walls, so that the waste will be it can be transported out of the body through the anus. And also neutralization. Bile provides an alkaline fluid in the duodenum to neutralize the acidic pH of the kind. So the stomach, the food present in the stomach is acidic because of the HCl. And this bile, as it is an alkaline fluid, it will help to neutralize that acidic nature of the food. So that is the functions of the bile. Now coming to the small intestine, which is about 5 meters long. And the small intestine is a supercoiled structure, begins with the pyloric sphincter. So the entry of the stomach into the small intestine is guarded by a sphincter called pyloric sphincter. And when this pyloric sphincter it opens only when the food is partly digested, or you can say when the food is converted into chyme. Okay, when the chyme is formed, this pyloric sphincter will open and will transport the food from the stomach to the small intestine. It lies in the abdominal cavity. Here you can see this is the small intestine and it is surrounded by the large intestine. The intestine can be divided into three regions: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. And the duodenum is 20 to 25 meters, 25 centimeters. The jejunum is 2 meters and the ileum is 3 meters. So the ileum is the longest part. The mucosal layer of the small intestine forms circular folds to increase the contact surface with the food. So the small intestine is the region where the maximum absorption of nutrients will take place. So whatever the nutrients we get from the food, they will be absorbed maximum in the small intestine. And how the inner lining of the small intestine has a large number of circular folds. So these are the folds. They will extend up to 1 centimeter into the lumen of the small intestine. Okay, and these folds are covered with small finger-like structures called villi. So these villi are responsible for the absorption of nutrients. Okay, villi assist in absorption process. These villi will help in absorbing those nutrients. Absorptive cells. Okay, what does the villi contain? It contains the absorptive cells which are known as enterocytes, and goblet cells are present between these enterocytes which will secrete the mucus. So these are the villi here, okay, which are present in the circular folds of the small intestine. They contain absorptive cells and also goblet cells. These absorptive cells will absorb the nutrients, whereas the goblet cells will secrete the mucus. Okay, when the acidic food present in the stomach enters the small intestine, some quantities of HCl will also come along with the food, and it can cause damage to the inner lining of the small intestine. So that's why these goblet cells present in the villi, they will secrete the mucus and they will cover the lining of the small intestine. And the small intestinal lining also contains certain glands called Brunner's glands. It secretes alkaline mucus, which will help in neutralizing the acidic food. And the intestinal glands present below the surface of the villi secretes intestinal juices. So certain intestinal juices are secreted by glands present under these villi. Okay, under these villi, certain glands are present which are known as crypts of 𝘿𝙂𝙀. These glands present under the villi are known as crypts of 𝘿𝙂𝙀, which will secrete the intestinal juices. Now, intestinal glands plays both exocrine and endocrine roles. The exocrine parts, will secrete the peptidases, that is enterokinase enzyme will activate certain inactive enzymes present in the pancreatic juice. And it also contains sucrase, maltase, lactase, lipase, amylase, aminopeptidase, and carboxypeptidase. So these are the different enzymes which will assist in digesting the macromolecules. And the endocrine portion of the small intestine secretes two hormones. So, like the stomach, in which the gastrin, somatostatin, and histamine are secreted, in the small intestine also two hormones are secreted. That is the cholecystokinin and secretin. Now, the cholecystokinin will stimulate the gallbladder to contract and increase the flow of bile salts into the intestine. So, the cholecystokinin will stimulate the gallbladder, and as a result, the bile will flow into the small intestine. The secretin will stimulate the release of an alkaline pancreatic fluid that neutralizes stomach acid as it enters the intestine. So, the secretin will stimulate the release of a alkaline fluid, which will help to neutralize the acidic fluid present in the food. As it comes from the stomach, it contains acids, right? This secretin will stimulate the secretion of alkaline fluid, which will help in the neutralization of this acid present in the food. Now, the fats, they are the lipids, they are present in the form of triglycerides. These are broken down into fatty acids by by the lipase enzymes and other enzymes present or in the pancreatic juices, etc. These fatty acids, they cannot enter into the blood circulation directly as they are lipophilic. So the bile salts and the lipoproteins, they will form chylomicrons. Okay, these ball-like structures, these are chylomicrons, which are formed by the phospholipids or lipoproteins and bile salts. And these fatty acids, they are enclosed in these ball-like structures, which are called chylomicrons. And these chylomicrons are absorbed into lymphatic circulation present in the villi. So the villi contains here, this is the blood circulation, this is the lymph circulation. So the lymph vessels are known as lacteals. So these chylomicrons will be absorbed into these lacteals, and then eventually they will be absorbed into the blood circulation. So first the bile salts will emulsify these fats. They will form chylomicrons. These chylomicrons will be absorbed into the lacteals, that is the lymph circulation present in the villi, and from there they will be eventually dumped into the blood circulation. So, as I told you earlier, each villus contains blood capillaries and lymph capillaries called lacteals. And the nutrients are absorbed by the villus and transported into the blood circulation. So, the enterocytes present in the villus, the nutrients present in the lumen will enter into the enterocytes of the villus, and from the enterocytes, they will enter into the blood circulation. Ileum absorbs the electrolytes, vitamin B12, and the remaining bile acids. So, as the ileum is, it is the last part of the small intestine. So, whatever the nutrients are present, the remaining nutrients, the remaining electrolytes, and the vitamin B12, they will be absorbed by the in the ileum region. Now, coming to the large intestine surrounds the small intestine, and it is about 1.5 meters long. It contains four major regions: the cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. The entry of the ileum into the cecum is guarded by iliosphincter valve. So the pyloric valve will will guard the entry of food from stomach to the intestine, small intestine, and the entry of food from the small intestine to the large intestine is guarded by ileocecal sphincter. Ileocecal sphincter, or you can say it as Bogin wall. So the vermiform, the large intestine is also divided into different parts: the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and the sigmoid colon. So here this is the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and the sigmoid colon. Oh, sorry. Okay. And the last part is the rectum. Here you can see a finger-like structure here. It is known as a vermiform appendix. It is the vestibular organ. It doesn't, particularly it doesn't have any important, it doesn't play any important function. So in absorption, the large intestine doesn't contain any villi like the small intestine. So the small intestine has a number of villi in its lining, but the large intestine doesn't contain any villi. Okay, most absorption of the nutrients and other substances will take place in the intestine, in the small intestine itself. Okay, more absorption will not take place in the large intestine. But the large intestine contains billions of bacteria like the E. coli, Streptococcus faecalis, Enterobacter aerogens, and these all bacteria present in the large intestine, they will help in the synthesis of vitamins like vitamin K and different other vitamins. These will help in the synthesis of vitamins. And the rectum is the at the end of the colon. It absorbs the remaining water and electrolytes, further solidifies the waste. So all the nutrients and different electrolytes and other useful substances from the food are absorbed from in the small intestine itself, and the remaining waste it will enter the large intestine. In the large intestine, a billion number of bacteria are present, and they will help in the synthesis of vitamins. And as the remaining food enters the large intestine, whatever the remaining water, the electrolytes or fluids, they will be absorbed into the by the rectum, and as a result, the waste food which is said to be not useful for the body, it will get solidified as the fluids are absorbed. And whenever there is a nerve trigger, okay, whenever there is a trigger from the nervous system, the rectum opens into the anal canal leading to the anus. Okay, whenever there is a trigger from the nervous system saying that the waste has to be eliminated, so the rectum will be stimulated. The rectum will release this waste into the anal canal, and from the anal canal it will enter the anus. Now this anal canal is guarded by two sphincters. One is the external sphincter and the internal sphincter. The internal sphincter is not in our control. It is made up of the smooth muscle. It is not in our control. Whereas the external sphincter, it is in our control. We can control the movements of that external anal sphincter. So whenever there is a trigger from the nervous system, the waste will be excreted out of the rectum, and large amounts of mucus is secreted in the large intestine. Why? Because for supporting the easy removal of the waste from the body. So this is about the large intestine. So this is about the overall digestive system. Yeah, yeah. I was talking about the large intestine. Sulochana Ganesh. Okay, large intestine, it doesn't absorption function, maximum absorption function will take place in the small intestine itself. All the nutrients present in the food, it will all be absorbed in the small intestine itself. The large intestine, it will just absorb the remaining fluids and electrolytes, and it will try to solidify the waste, and excess of mucus will be secreted, and this mucus will help in the easy removal of the waste from the body. So that is about the large intestine. Okay. If there are any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, students, thank you very much.